Here is another story of Mick and Pat. It's entitled Tin Beef, and I've given this title to it because it relates to a situation that I had when I was very young in a youth hostel in France, and I was travelling with a friend, Kevin Dwyer, and we had a tin of beans and we had the same problem. So I'm going to read this little story to you. Seldom did Mick and Pat venture into the village, and seldom too did they buy from the one and only store there, being the post office, the bank, fire ranger's depot, and shops selling anything from veggies, tin goods to the prettiest of children's clothing. When our two did go to the store, it was an all-day event, as it always required a beer or two with whoever farm hands happened to be in town at that time, and the remaining time catching up with news and gossip from the storekeeper or his wife, who never ever stopped talking. In the shop, items were in disarray, being somewhere but nowhere, on top of seed bags or under pitchforks, on the top or on the shelves. You just had to look. There was a good selection of fresh veggies from the locals, and the store bought in a fine selection of imported local wine, as well as many cases of tin food from the monthly wagon from the big city. And the big city in those days was Sydney. Not that it was so big in those days back then, but growing fast. I'm talking about Sydney now, and the sailing ships would be full of goods for the new colony. All kinds of things came from the old country, as England was called by the colonists, and then there were spices and rice from Asia, tea from India, and so on. All being so intriguing to these two swagmen. On one visit, Frank, the store owner, suggested that they might like to try a tin of bully beef, the same as the one sent to the soldiers in the Crimean War. Mick said it was good enough grub for soldiers, it would be fine for swagmen. So home they went with a large tin of beef. However, no one mentioned that a tin opener would be necessary to open this can, and to their dismay, they were at a loss at dinner time as to how this can, with the lovely blue and green label with pictures of bulls and cows grazing on a peaceful meadow, could be opened. And when you're hungry and your tummy starts rumbling, you may go to desperate things to get that food. Here was a tin of yummy meat, and all it needed was to be opened. They scratched their heads, they puffed their pipes, they thought and meditated to no solution. "I know," cried out Mick, "I'll open the later," and of that he found the axe, and putting the tin with that pretty label I was telling you about on the log, with one gigantic whack, he opened the tin all right. Well, he more than opened the tin. There were bits of yummy beef far and wide, and already the local black ants were at work gathering up what they could and bringing it to their nearby hill. As for that pretty label, it was no more, just a smudgy, meat-smeared country scene, and not at all appealing. Our two friends, it's sad to say, had very little dinner that evening. The next morning, bright and early, Mick was seen heading off to the local store to buy, well, you guess it, a can opener. I hope you enjoyed that little story.